Hello, I'm Randy Baps from UXstars.com, and today I'm going to talk with you about my experience trying to set up my son's Fitbit. Not everything went quite according to plan. So, when my son got his Fitbit for his birthday from a family member, I was a little bit worried about how the setup may go. And today, I finally got around to setting it up. Let's see how that went. Things were a little bit rocky right off the start. I installed the Fitbit application, and it's one of those where even though you're on a big iPad screen, it treats it like it was made for a phone. So it's like, oh, it's only going to take up this much of the screen. Just like it's an odd thing that you would expect from maybe a developer who's not as big a name as Fitbit. So that's a bit strange. Now, I did notice in the right hand corner here there is an expansion which sort of zooms in on it and makes it a bit bigger. That's not something I even noticed right away. So, I have a little bit of test information here just for the sake of this presentation. Essentially, filling out his name, email, password, agreeing to terms, and oh, birthday, fine. Okay, all of a sudden, after entering the birthday, there was some validation done. And it's just like they've already asked me to do the name, email, password, and agreement to terms. And then they're like, oh, wait, hold up. You're creating a child's account? No, no, no. So all that was just like wasted time. They should have asked me earlier in the process something that would indicate if I was creating a child's account, and we would have avoided all that wasted time. So I get these instructions, and they're essentially telling me to go onto my son's iPad and log in with our parent Fitbit account and set it up from there. Now, when I have to tweak account settings and various settings and things like that, and I know it's going to be possibly quite tedious, I prefer to do that on a computer browser with a mouse and a keyboard. And so I went ahead and tried that route. It was a bad idea. Things didn't really get any better there. So on my computer browser, I logged into Fitbit, and I saw the dashboard here. Okay, they did mention a dashboard. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this is more of a fitness dashboard having to do with steps, etc. Fine. And I figured maybe if I go into the settings, things will look up from there. Personal information was just, name and all that information for my wife. The manage account access. Okay, so there was nothing here about setting up some kind of family, grouping or anything like that either. Okay, so I figured I should probably go back and try things out on the iPad since they did mention using my son's device. Alright, so I was a little bit perplexed though how to get to the family account because when I look at this, there's nothing that says family account on the screen. I figured, oh, well, this looks a little bit like a family. No, the icon of the multiple people is not what I wanted to click on. Finally, I figured the upper left-hand corner was sort of to go to the profile or account section, and sure enough, that led me to seeing my family setting. Okay, I got a little falsely excited that things were going to go well at this point. I went to go ahead and create the child account. Fine. Privacy, blah, blah, blah. I've entered in test here for the sake of the presentation. And, okay. Entering in some of these basic statistics. Now, this is a small point, nothing that really held me up. I thought it was a little odd when I would click on each of the different types of fields, such as the gender and the birthday and how tall is your child. It would each take me to a full screen sort of field setting for that. And then there was no apply or okay or save button. You just made a choice, and then you were like, what do I do now? Some people would say that's the call to action. You're like, what do I do? Great, I changed the height. Okay, you have to hit this little back arrow each time. And so that's kind of breaking a convention, because often you figure if you go into something and you change something you didn't mean to, you want to back out of it. Here, like, backing out applies the setting. not the biggest problem in this whole thing. That's yet to come. So here's some information we entered, and I get to this screen, and I'm a little perplexed at this point. I'm like, what am I setting up? Ace 2 for kids or Ace for kids, right? And so I'm looking at this, right? And I figure, oh, okay, yeah, it kind of looks like the bottom one, you know? And so, okay, setting things up here. Then I start to get a little bit worried because when they're showing me some more of these pictures of the Fitbit, it doesn't look quite like mine. The charger is this, and the Fitbit is this, and nothing is really quite matching up. And I'm like, oh no. And I'll just point out here too, working with this tiny little short cable when I had to plug it in to an adapter or a computer was really awkward because it wouldn't even be long enough to rest on the desk or whatnot. So, like, they could have given us a few more inches of cable. That would have been helpful. All right. Yeah, the band fit was fine. It actually came with an extra band. Going on. Oh, back on the screen here. It was a little ambiguous. I'm like, plug the charging cable into a USB port. I wasn't really sure if they meant I had to plug it into a USB port on a computer because maybe it would have to do some kind of data interaction, or if I simply could plug it into one of my USB chargers right into the power strip. And so that was a bit ambiguous. I tried both to no avail. So it couldn't find the Fitbit, and so here I am trying to plug it into the computer, plug it into some of my, little power brick adapters with the USB in them. At this point, I do the things they want me to, turn the Bluetooth off and on, turn the phone off and on. I'm getting pretty frustrated at this point as a consumer. I wasn't even sure what Fitbit this thing was. I finally found the box it had come in because I had put that somewhere else, and I'm like, oh, great. So this is the Fitbit Inspire HR for heart rate. It's not the ACE. So if I get this straight, if I enter in how old my son is, they say, oh, he must have an ACE or an ACE 2. And it's like, no. Like, the thing tracks steps and heart rate. So I can understand why the app on the iPad might be different, but I really don't quite understand the need to have a step tracker that is specific. Going through here, I say, okay, let's go back to the parent view because things are not panning out. Maybe I'll have more control there. Now I'm choosing the device type. So this is where the screen just sort of hung on switching view to parent, switching view to parent. I'm like, it just keeps getting better and better. Going on, I think, okay, when I restart the app under the parent account, I'm like, okay, I have all these choices now for a device that I can set up. All right. Now you can see this is what we have. This is what they thought that we would have for a kid. Now, for my son, this looks too kiddie, right? He doesn't want something that looks sort of cartoony like that for his age. And I say, okay, I'll select the Inspire HR. All right, things are looking up. I'm in here. I go, oh, okay, setting it up. Found it. Very quickly it found it. Awesome. I start to think that maybe things are starting to go my way. It just wanted me to pair the two with a number here that would show up on the device's screen and then enter that into the app. No big deal. Fitbit protection plan. Protect your new device. So at this part, I started to daydream about things that could unfortunately happen to this thing. Moving along. Goody. Now that we've done all these prior steps and had these other hiccups, it's time to do a firmware update on the device. And there's no option to opt out of it or do it later. It's just, would you like to update now or would you like to update now? I guess I'll update now. There's no going back. Like, literally, there's no back arrow. Okay. So, I start this whole process of updating the Fitbit. Okay, 4%. I keep coming back to it because I had some other things to do. Yeah. So, in about 20 minutes later, the thing had finally finished downloading and installing onto this device. And that was quite a while. There was no kind of indication how long it was going to take. It took far longer than I thought it was going to. All right, goody. The Inspire HR is updated. Awesome. Okay, I think, foolishly, that I'm actually going to wrap this up now. No. So, now it seems that the Inspire HR is associated with my wife's account, which isn't really going to do my son any good. And I couldn't find any way of going through this and associating this device to his account after the fact instead. So, what do I have to do? Do I have to create an account, fudge his birthday so that he appears to be an adult, so that I can let him use a step tracker? It's like, it might come to that. I don't have it in me to pursue that today. So I go and look on the website to see, okay, well, how clear were they, when my family member was picking out this device for my son? Okay, going through here, there's nothing mentioned at all about how old the person has to be to use this device. I mean, it's a step tracker. It's like, oh, it comes in one size and it tracks things and, looks pretty streamlined. There's nothing here saying, oh, hey, this is only for people who are above a certain age level. Otherwise, we won't set this up in their child account. It's just bizarre. And so I go ahead and I look at this Ace 2. They talk a little bit about ages here, right? But they don't really specify the exact age range at which they mean somebody's a child or an adult. I'm going to guess maybe it's around the 13-year mark. So when I do these things, I often try to say, okay, now let's take a look back at the Nielsen-Norman Group usability heuristics. And if you want to go back, I think that all the ones listed here are going to be hit in this one pretty small scenario, which is like pretty bad. So, summary. Why does this app not at least automatically adjust to the size of an iPad? Why does it assume, oh, this must be on a phone? I mean, obviously, if I'm setting this up for a kid of a younger age, they're less likely to have a phone than an iPad. I'm pretty sure that market research will substantiate that because people don't necessarily want to pay a plan for, a child below a certain age. They would more likely have some kind of tablet. So why wouldn't you let a child use a step tracker like this? Why do they have to use something that looks a bit more gaudy and like toy-like? For my son's age, he wants something that looks more like an adult's watch. Why would they take away that choice? I mean, this is just a step tracker. Okay, so when I was going through the process, they easily could have identified earlier on, oh, are you setting up an account for somebody below this age? Or the first question it could have been, oh, what's your birthday, right? Instead, that was further down the road, and that just led to some wasted time. Now, if the app is only going to allow certain devices for certain ages, why isn't that stated? Right? That could have been listed on the first page of the application. And nowhere's in this do I see any kind of rules that say when you can create a non-child account. Like, you're just supposed to just guess at like the ages. Like, maybe I'm gonna have to bump my kid up by a few years until he's like 13 or something like that, just so he can like track steps. It's getting ridiculous. And okay, the 20-minute update during setup. If I had known it was going to be 20 minutes, I probably would have been more okay with that. But I just kept looking, and there was just like a little progress bar on here. I had no idea. And I was borrowing my son's iPad at the time to do this. So, he wanted to use that, and I finally got it back to him. So, all in all, I think that a lot of these things could be, easily solved. It's just sort of being transparent about, oh, hey, this device is meant for this age range, or hey, why not let somebody, associate any step tracker device that they have to a child's account? I realize that some of them are going to be more rugged, but it's just weird that they took away that kind of control. Anyway, I hope that this gave you some insight as far as some usability things to look out for in your applications and others. And until next time, see you later.